So this is a file I have where I just make a note of some of the things which really appeal to me, and they really bring me to my heart temple. And in the last satsang, we discussed how all true knowledge, true love, true beauty, truth, joy, bliss, everything that we look for in this human condition, we mostly end up looking for it in the wrong place, where it actually comes as an outpouring of God within our hearts. So all that is valuable comes from the heart as a gift of the presence of God, as a gift of the Atma within. So what happens there is that most of Maya is pulling us outwards. Most of Maya is pulling us towards objects, and the mind convinces you that you are just a body. But in God's mercy and grace, He's given us some cheat codes where we can use them to go in the other direction. The point of spirituality is to go towards spirit. So, so what are these cheat codes usually? They are the words of the sages. The sages have got access to the heart temple. They are in communion with the Atma within. And the words are shared from that holy place of communion. And therefore, they have the potential to pull us into our hearts. But based on our temperament and conditioning, what pulls me into my heart could be completely different from what works for you. So, but I felt like today I just want to share some of the things, and most of these I've already shared in the contemplations group. So, Kabirji, who is a great Indian sage, Kabir, he said, like a sharp arrow is the love of Ram. Only someone struck by it knows the pain. Like a sharp arrow is the love of Ram. Only someone struck by it knows the pain. The first part of this doesn't sound like fun. Like a sharp arrow. Nobody gets into spirituality to experience the pain of a sharp arrow, isn't it? Like a sharp arrow is the love of Ram. Only someone struck by it knows the pain. So, what is the sweet wound of the heart? There's a holy wound. It's the piercing of the heart. And this heart is our spiritual center. It is not the physical organ pumping blood, but like Bhagavan Maharishi, Ramana Maharishi said, the very core of our existence, a tiny point smaller than the tip of a needle, he said, which is alive with the holy light with the light which is beyond perception. So the more we deepen in our love for God, in our love for the truth, we are, we are gifted this overwhelming love. And this sort of heartache is the sweetest we can ever encounter. It's like a piercing that we want to dive into. We also realize that the love in our heart is irresistible to God. And the more empty we are of ourselves, the more naked we are of our persona, of our masks, of our knowledge, especially of our spiritual achievements, our worldly achievements. In our nakedness, and offering our heart, the entirety of our being, in a fearless surrender, then you will start to see that that love is reciprocated a million times over. That love was his to begin with. And now, when offered back to him, then we start to drown in this holy love, whose construct is so empty of any sort of physical desire and material pleasure, seems so gross compared to the subtlety of this inner holy love. So hopefully I've expressed to you how beautiful this love is. But the second part, what the sage said, only someone struck by it knows the pain. Uh, So, so don't let that dissuade you. Don't let that dishearten you. That it's all right for the sage Kabir to talk about it, um, for Ananta to speculate about it. But I don't know if I've been struck by it. So how will I know what the sage is talking about? You see, so these kind of thoughts can come to you. Mhm. So what can we do to love God? Mhm. Simplest is to make yourself available to be loved by Him. Are you available to be loved by Him right now? How to make yourself to be available? Just like a child would, or just like a beloved would, or a parent would. Whatever construct of relationship appeals to you, because we cannot really construct in our mind the immensity of this relationship we have with God, and God understands this limitation of our intellect. So He allows us to pick whatever construct we want. So, like Sri Ramakrishna said, yearn for Him like a little child yearns for the mother. That yearning is crying out to the mother, and also is very confident that in my crying out to the mother, she will pick me up. So availability, when it deepens more and more, becomes a yearning. What are you most available to receive right now? Are you here to receive knowledge? What is the construct of that knowledge? What is the texture of that knowledge? Is it conceptual knowledge that we are looking for? And in a way, conceptual knowledge has a very minor place in this, in the sense that it can point you to the deeper place of true knowledge, which is Atma-Jnana. But for the moment, don't be concerned about any conceptual knowledge. Then you may say that I'm here to better my relationship with my outer teacher so that I can be seen by him, he can be seen by me. Just for the moment, forget about all of that words. You're not going to learn anything new. I won't remember you. You won't remember me. Allow yourself to just be empty. The next part that I'm going to say, you cannot do, but the words may inspire some movement of divine action. As you remain empty, offer your heart fully to God. Belong only to Him in this moment. Your life isn't for anything else. If your mind is distracting you, see your favorite name for God as if it is a call from deep within your heart. You're calling out to the most beloved one. I belong only to God right now. मैं आपका ही हूँ भगवान. There is nothing in my life that is mine. I offer everything at your feet. Nothing important is happening in your life except this love relationship with God. I'm here just to behold you and to be held by you. silence in my heart is a form of love. Very good, very good. So did you all experience some emptiness for a few moments at least? It's okay. If it is very distracted, then that's also good too. No problem. But I'm just saying because uh, we went through the whole process of Advaita sadhana or Lakshya Davina. So we heard the words. We heard the words. That is the Lakshya part, the Shravana part. To hear the words which are spiritual truths. And what is the spiritual truths? That we cannot make sense of ourselves. That we need the Spirit's assistance, the Atma's assistance to guide us, to show us the reality of these words. You see? And they have a lot of depth. And because they are spiritual truths, we can rely on them to dive into the Spirit because of that. So, hearing the words of the sages is to hear the spiritual truths, or reading the words of the sages is to read the spiritual truths. So, that is the Ravana part, the hearing part. Then, what did we do? We heard just the 4 lines, but then we reflected on them a bit, or at least I helped you reflect today. But when you do this process yourself, you will juice them out. You will juice out the words in whatever way appeals to you the most. And in that juicing, you may start to taste some sweetness and also some spiritual helplessness. You see? Because when you come across the spiritual truths, your mind, intellect feels helpless about it because it cannot make sense of it. Who wants a wound of love which is painful like an arrow? To the mind, it doesn't make sense. But there is something within you that is attracted to those words, even though these are translations of the words of the sage Kabir. And yet something in your heart feels the truth of these words, but your mind feels helpless to meet them. So in that helplessness, we become like that baby who needs the help of the mother, who cries out for the mother. So in our manana, which is called meditation, which is to reflect on the words using the mind intellect. We come to a certain sweetness of the juice and a certain helplessness. And that sweetness, that helplessness combined brings us to a prayerful state called Orisho or Sharanam. And that makes us open to receive. So it may arise in the form of a spoken prayer or just communication with God. It may just be help me, God, or thank you, God. Then what happens is very, very beautiful and holy. It is called Nididhyasana or contemplation. Why is it holy? Because it may seem like we are starting the process, but God alone has to finish it. In what way do we start? After we are prayerful, we are just open and receptive and available. We may find that there's just a stillness, a silence, or there's a felt love. Both are love because the mind operates on fear. So, unless there was love in that silence, we would not leave the mind. So, this silence is a holy love. It doesn't have to be a felt emotion. The felt emotion could be an outpouring of that. So, whether it is felt or it is just silent, then that's already the holy movement within ourselves, in our insides. And in this holy recollection, where you may have all noticed that, at least for a few moments, all your faculties may be emptied out, unconcerned about anything in Maya. And it's not a competition, it's not about how many minutes of silence, stillness, emptiness we got. It is just that we made ourselves available to God. But in that silence, it's not the silence which is the absence of everything. Hmm? It is not a silence which is like a worldly empty silence, like an empty glass. It is a full silence. It is full of a holy transmission that is happening from your heart. And everything that is spiritual is received in this holy transmission. This is the beginning of spirituality. Although to the mind it may seem like the end of spirituality. See? To sit in the silent transmission of the Atma within is to begin our love relationship with God and to begin our discipleship of the Atma, the Holy Spirit within. Very rarely are we taught in words in this holy place. The mechanics, the mode of teaching here is different. Words need not be spoken, and yet you will be transformed. It is not possible that you sit in these holy rays of love emanating from the Atma at the door of the holy temple of God, and it is not possible that you are not transformed by them. This is how spiritual transformation happens. This is how we fall in love. Getting a sense of it. The spiritual truth doesn't just have to be a spiritual fact or a statement. The spiritual truth can be in the form of a question also. So the most popular question with all of us, because of the influence of Bhagwan, is who am I? Ask yourself this question, who am I? But don't go to the holy place that we just spoke about. Just keep it in your mind. Just who am I? Just try to solve it in your head. But who am I? I was born in 1975. This is my mother. This is my father. But who am I? You're not asking for the place of birth or who your parents were. Who are you? I am a human. You're not asking for your species. You're not asking for your label. Say, who are you? Can you solve it? You may know the answer. You may say, I am the self. I am Brahman itself. But remember that having the concept of something is not to know something. See? So when you take Bhagwan's advice and you say, who witnesses even this thought? You will find that very soon the mind intellect gives up. When it gives up, where do you go? And when the revelation is to be received, where will it be received? So it will be in the same holy place. The answer, the revelation will come in the form of the same silent transmission from the Atma itself. And when the silent transmission happens, the modes of teaching are different. You may come to a state where you may not find a sense of a separate me anymore. when this when we are in the discipleship in the presence of the Atma itself, then the mode of teaching can be in the form of spiritual experiences, in the form of silent transmission. So, who can take the sense of me away from us? We say, I did the inquiry, and we sort of imply that I did the inquiry so well that the sense of me itself was lost. But that's not it. It's not how well I did the inquiry. We must be, of course, sincere in the inquiry. We must do our part. But asking a question, just 3 words, short ones at that, does not have the potency to take the sense of me away from us with that which is so intimate to us. Mhm. So it is the gift of God Himself in the form of the Spirit Himself which can bring us to that awakening experience where we see that I am awake, there is no separation left. So where will that happen? It will happen in that same place of receptivity, openness, and love in our heart, approach with faithfulness, patience, humility. So the spiritual truth can be in the form of a spiritual inquiry as well. Who am I? Can I, can I stop being? Am I aware now? What do I know when I know nothing? All these things you've heard in Satsang over the years. So whether the content of the contemplation is bhakti or jnana, it is the same process of contemplation. We cannot meet God and therefore not receive His knowledge or love without going to that same holy place in the heart. And then what happens is we get used to living there and our prayer becomes unceasing. We've been told, isn't it? In India, we are told we must do Nirantar Japa, Nirantar Simran, constant remembrance, constant remaining with His name. And in the West, in Christianity, we are told to pray unceasingly. Now, it's not possible to pray unceasingly in the mind. But the more we get used to applying all our faculties to pray, then even when we are in our daily movements, daily activities, you find that your prayer doesn't stop. Because really, prayer is to be open and receptive to His holy presence at all times. And like we were discussing in the WhatsApp group today, that unless our endeavor is to hand over our life, especially our will, to Him, we cannot pray unceasingly. Because even the what to do should come from Him. So some of us may have this question that once I see that I'm that, then why do I need to wait to be guided by Him? Because I am Him. in your revelation that you are that revelation doesn't come along that now you can leave your servitude. It hasn't come for any sage. That is just an extrapolation from the mind, which says, now that I see I am that, therefore now my position is that, which is his. So it's like the spark then being the same as the fire starts to feel that it can decide what to burn next. So this oneness and yet distinction, which is unfathomable to the mind, is our reality, which is that recognition of that oneness and at the same time seeing our helplessness. Because everything that is important in life is still beyond the control of our desire or our will. So that desire, that will, which still continues to flit around, has to be brought into the servitude of His will. Otherwise, what will happen? You will get into Advaita pride. And there is no ego as strong as Advaita pride. So the attempt is to give you a sense of the spiritual project. Empty for God, not remaining just conceptual, but our life transforming in this beautiful way. There is no other need to come to Satsang. There is no other reason to come to Satsang. So I stopped putting the poll on the contemplations group because I didn't want us to become either competitive or too quantitative in our approach. But it's very important to spend that time with God. And whether that time is spent with God or not is up to Him. But spend that time in that receptivity with the intention to be with Him. And use the opportunity of the contemplations that happen, because somehow in a group it seems easier to devote that time collectively to God. But it is possible in a group also that just sitting in the group itself may have some benefit, but if you're sitting in the group but you're dwelling on something else, then you're not really being present to his presence. What is the meaning of inward facing? God, spirituality, Atma, the spirit, whatever you may want to call him, will be found when we are inward facing. What is inward facing? Huh? Sitting at the door of God, sitting at the door of the heart temple with uh, patience, humility, but with what faculty? It can be attention, it can be um, very hard to describe which faculty. Like we are attempting to put the entirety of our soul, our insides at his door, isn't it? So every aspect of us must be attuned towards him. Right? So just to take an absurd example, so if our attention is in the heart, but we are still trying to um, solve a business problem, yeah, that'll also need some attention. Some jugglery will happen. But everything should become for God and available to God. The full Antakarna, I've shared some of these things on the group also. So we must belong to God for that time. One father said in the publication, ICS publication podcast, that if you're sitting with someone, but actually you're just texting someone else on the phone, who are you more present with? So in that way, our presence must belong to that presence from where this sense of separate presence comes. Sorry, did I make it too complicated? You must be present to the presence. I felt like we read through quite a few. There's a beautiful one. I don't know how to pronounce her name properly. Stephanie Mallarme. She said, everything sacred that wishes to remain sacred clothes itself in mystery. Everything sacred that wishes to. I'm not charging today. I know where the money was sent, but everything sacred that wishes to remain sacred clothes itself in mystery. Beautiful. And it's okay if you don't find it beautiful. It's just things which appeal to me in the heart so much. Mm. If there is no mystery in our spirituality, If we think we know it all now, we are in big trouble. There's no mystery in our spirituality, and we think we know it all now, we are in big trouble. The depths of God will not be scaled by even the highest sage. The more you find Him, the more we realize that there is much more to find. Mm. Mm. So, if I can paraphrase and contaminate the Zen example of climbing to the top of the mountain, if you climb to the top of the mountain and you don't see the next mountain, then you're in trouble. Wouldn't it be terrible? Wouldn't it be horrible that one day I can say I'm done? It sounds like big relief to the mind. Yeah? But imagine that there's nothing new to discover now. There's no sweetness left. There is no depth of insight more to dive into. It will be a very stale spirituality. So she said, everything sacred that wishes to remain sacred clothes itself in mystery. See? So God will always remain sacred, and therefore the mystery of God will never be resolved. And that's a great gift. Therefore, the ever deepening is available to us every day. So we must never get into any pride that now I know it. When we allow ourselves to taste the mystery, only then will we rely on instruments which are not traditional. What are we conditioned to use in our lives? Conditioned to use our mind, intellect, senses. You see, these instruments, we are conditioned to use body. But the mystery means that through these instruments, the truth is ungraspable. That you have figured it out in the traditional instruments, in the primitive instruments, that you don't need to go to the heart instrument, the instrument of intuitive insight. Now, what happens over there? The silent transmission happens. What can the mind make of a silent transmission? It actually doesn't even know that something happened. For it, you went to sleep. And it can feel like the body also went to sleep. So my watch, which I wear for health reasons, when I look at it after a period of contemplation, it says sleep. So it can seem like the body is sleeping, to the mind, we went to sleep, but we know that we are not asleep. This is that contemplation. It's just 1 millimeter away from sleep state. And the deeper the contemplation, the deeper it will come 1 millimeter away from even the death state. You see? Where the body itself may, for some moments, not breathe, all this functioning, you won't even know actually. But this is what the sages have reported. Like you will not know, I will not know whether the body was breathing or not. As we deepen in our samadhi, as we deepen in our contemplative states, all these things will happen. So, if it is no longer a mystery in our primitive instruments, we will not go to the true instrument of knowledge. Mm. Yeah. That is why the process of reflection must not be a process of thinking that now I have solved it. It must lead to this spiritual sweetness and a sense of helplessness of not being able to meet it in the old place where we used to living. Can we put this on for a bit? The AC. So we're leaving our old home behind and learning to build the house in the new home, which will be our eternal home. So when the great sage Bulle Shah Ji said that we must uproot from here and plant there, this is what he's talking about. Uproot all this attachment from the false place, all this needless thinking. That is alarm to get me to go home. What's happened? So this mystery is very valuable to us. The spiritual contemplation must have some mystery, otherwise that sense of conceptual helplessness will not come. What did Kabirji attempt to inspire us to do in those simple 4 lines? Inspired us for so much, isn't it? Love for God, to give up everything for Him. And yet He instigated us with this sense of mystery that only those who are struck by it will know. And we know we cannot resolve it in our old faculties. We must go to the new place. Everything that is sacred and wishes to remain sacred, God will always remain sacred. Mhm. True love will always remain sacred. Can we resolve the mystery of what love is? What's it over? Yeah. So none of us knows why a bhajan does to us what it does. Or even music as a broader category itself. This is that's a mystery in itself, a sacred mystery in itself. But especially when you look at devotional music and how it can clean us up, bring us to no mind, and bring us to the heart temple, is a beautiful mystery which in our mind we can never resolve. We can say, oh, dopamine, oh, this something chemical, something, but it doesn't solve it. Why does a set of notes create these chemicals anyway? Mm. So, are you getting a sense of what I mean by manana, reflection, reflecting, meditatio, just like that, to dive into the wonder of it. Yeah, and if you dive into the wonder more and more of it, then you are brought to that quiet place where true transmission happens. And if something is not juicy, spiritually juicy, not mentally juicy, spiritually juicy for you, leave it. There are enough pointers. There are enough pointers. And you don't have to appeal, the same pointers that appeal here don't have to appeal to you. Everybody's will be different. But what is important is that we don't rush. If you say, if you read something in 2 minutes, you've understood everything, it's a complete waste. Read something else. The mystery is very important. And don't get frustrated by the mystery. Encourage it. Like, be happy that you found something that is attractive and yet mysterious. Even if something becomes a lifetime question, welcome it in your life. One child is written in about the recognition of errors. And to use the word which is commonly used in spirituality, the recognition of sin is still a scary word, I know, for many of us. So that's why I also say mistake or error. But if you use a simple definition that that which is an act of love is not a sin, and that which is less loving than it could be is an error, a mistake, or a sin, then that the taboo around the word, the unworthiness and the guilt around the word can be taken away. And we notice, start to notice, and I start to notice every day in my prayer more and more that there are so many opportunities to love more every day, but I don't take them because I want what I want. because we still want what we still want. Therefore, the project of surrendering our will to God's will is a long-term, lifetime project. At least in my case, it's a big work in progress. Because we cannot know how to be loving ourselves, either how to be loving or how we need to be loved. We actually cannot know, and only God knows. So, to recognize that I'm still a beginner on this project can only happen truthfully when we notice how much work is still left. You see, otherwise it can just be lip service. Oh, I'm just a beginner. I'm just a beginner, but I can't put a foot wrong. Then what are we a beginner at? You see? So unless I notice my capacity being so limited and my not using even my capacity to love fully, we cannot truly say we are beginners. If you don't notice our pride, if you don't notice what we can be repentant for, then it is just fancy Zen to say that I am in beginner mode. Beginner mode really means that something humbles us. Sometimes when we look back at our life, we feel humiliated at the way we've been. You see? So that humility part with the absence of despair is the holy beginner mode. This would be to be humbled in what is revealed to us is very auspicious. But to go into despair about how we've been is then to have lack of faith in God's ability to lift us up. So we must not fall either into pride or into a humility without God. Yes, I am foolish, but God is merciful. That must be what we remember. By myself, I am foolish, but He lifts me up. You see? And this humility then allows us to love our brothers and sisters more unconditionally, allows us to let go of our grievances more, allows us to ask for forgiveness for our lack of love when more love could be given. It adds a lot of integrity into our spiritual project. It's very good. And I don't feel like we truly know, like the Orthodox ones say that open to me the gates of repentance. Till we come to his door, we don't realize what we have to be repentant about. So these are as difficult as they might be to take for me. They are very holy revelations about how foolish I have been and continue to be. And I cannot get into Advaita pride after I see how foolish I am. So therefore, the highest insight that I am that And the revelation of how foolish I continue to be in my expression in this world allows us to remain in true knowledge and true servitude, true devotion. And of course, we hate this. Nobody wants a contradiction and to live with it. You see, no intellect likes it. The intellect would rather that I said, okay, I am not that. I'm just a servant of God. Preferable, but we cannot lie. You see? And it says, I would rather that I just am that. Everything is happening in God's will. There is no sin, error, mistake, servitude. You see? Forget about it. Yeah. But trust me on this one. Don't make the mistake of just taking one end of the spectrum to be true. So is the analogy of a spark and fire true? No, it isn't. Is the analogy of a flame and fire true? Better maybe than spark and fire. But is it true? Of course not. We just have to accept that some things we just can't fit into this tiny head of ours. And it can only be known in that place that we've been guided to today. So, great sage Yajnavalkya, he's the first one that I noticed had a reference to the inquiry in the Upanishads thousands of years back. Yajnavalkya was the first one who said, one form of spiritual practice is to ask, who am I? But Yajnavalkya as a sage was involved in a lot of rituals, praying to God. What is to pray to God is to also express our servitude to Him, to serve Him in the form of this playful play, not that He needs what we offer in these yajnas and pujas, but it is a playful expression of our servitude for God and our the fact that we belong to Him. So then the very one who in the scriptures talked about the realization of the self as the one, then what was the need for him to do any of these sadhanas, pujas? Even Bhagwan, without him, whom I feel that the emphasis on this holy question, who am I, would not have come into any of our lives. You see, without his constant reinforcement of the self-inquiry, it may have been lost as thousands of things are lost in the Upanishads. You see. He constructed a temple with many gods and goddesses. And to this day, there are artis and pujas that happen in the ashram. You see. So he recognized and he taught the world that I am that. You see. And yet, he continued in his devotion and servitude to God. We must learn from that. Maharaj, Nisargadatta Maharaj used to have two satsangs every day. What happened in the first satsang? Only bhajan. What happened in the second satsang? Was I am that. So are they hypocrites? Cannot be. They're great sages. It is just that it is impossible to resolve in our head. And our intellect hates it. We must accept that. Because the intellect likes primitive things. It has to be either this or that. But the heart is completely okay. Love you all.